So, hello everyone. We have the pleasure to talk with Nolan Lewis from Kryptos today on powerofmetal.cl, the podcast that we're having now with some cool bands releasing great music. So, hi Nolan, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for the interview. It's a real pleasure.
Yeah. So, are you in India right now? Like in
Yeah,
yeah, home country. Like you've been touring also in Europe lately, but you came back to India.
yeah. We just completed our European tour a few weeks ago, and yeah, we came back and we're pretty much recovering because it was really brutal this time.
Yeah, I'm sure. So, well, of course, the main reason why we're doing this interview is because of the new album, Decimator, coming out in a few weeks on AFM Records. It's your seventh album, full-length album. So how are you feeling about this new release?
We're super excited. We can't wait for it to drop. It's We've already released like four singles from the album, and they've been doing pretty well. So we can't wait for everyone to listen to the entire album. Of course, every band will say it, but we think it's our best album so far.
Yeah, I
Pretty
think,
sure
well,
it is.
yeah, I want to talk a little bit about this kind of details. Like, for example, maybe I will pull the artwork. We can maybe talk about the origin of the name. I mean, I was looking for the word, and there's different meanings to it. But what does it mean to you, like the decimator as a concept?
So basically, Decimator. I mean, the concept is pretty much just like the lyric video we released for it. It's basically about this ancient, technologically advanced civilization that developed these machines called the decimators, which would go from planet to planet and absorb their life force and pretty much destroy everything in their path. But eventually, the machines turn on their creators, and there's a huge war, and there's only one decimator left. But everything else is completely destroyed. So this one machine just keeps roaming the universe and keeps annihilating planets on the way and becoming even more powerful until one day it becomes the supreme machine being of the universe. So that's pretty much the concept behind Decimator. But as an album, it could have a double meaning because we think this is our most heavy metal sounding album. It's kind of like what Judas Priest used to do with all these uh, machine-like characters, like Painkiller or Steeler or Jugulator or whatever. But it's kind of like our take on that entire thing. And yeah, it really fits the when we wrote the song, we were like, whoa, cool, this is probably our heaviest song, heaviest and maybe most brutal song, and it kind of fit. It was like, yeah, let's call the album Decimator because we really think that as a cohesive unit, the album pretty much is like a heavy metal force that's coming to kick everyone's ass.
Yeah, and it's nice that, of course, that you mentioned Judas Priest, and you can hear in the sound, but also I think the artwork and the kind of all the merch with the upcoming album and the latest, like they're very old school heavy metal, and but I don't know how much input you put on when you're designing an album cover, T-shirt, the patch. How much do you rely on the artist, and how much you kind of give input to them?
Well, so our artwork was actually created by Subhuman Illustrations. She's from Colombia, and she's really cool to work with. She's done artwork for us in the past, and it's very easy because we just give her the lyrics. We give her a very basic concept of what we want, and she thinks the same way as us. So it was super easy. She did everything by hand, and she got it done in a few weeks. And we were like thrilled with what she came up with, because it kind of fit what we had in our minds as well. And it's really cool when you're working with somebody who has the same mindset as you, who listens to the same kind of music, who comes from the same school of thought. Then things just flow really well.
Yeah, and you mentioned also that this album is like really heavy and very, I would say that also very straightforward. I've been listening to the promo, and I noticed that the songs are quite short. There's one song over 4 minutes, and it's like half an hour. I really like that. I rather have an album that leaves me wanting more than a 90-minute album that, like I cannot listen to on one seat. But on the other hand, I was thinking that, was it somehow the energy that you had going, when writing the album, that you wanted to go like really to the point, cut to the chase, without like many epics, long songs? Like, how did that work this time?
Yeah, it's actually, it hasn't been a conscious decision to make the albums so short, but it just happens that way. We write the songs, and initially, of course, the songs are a little longer, but then we start trimming them down and getting them shorter and more concise. And that's kind of what we've always wanted to do. Write straightforward songs, really to the point. Say what you have to say in like 3 or 4 minutes, and get out. That's pretty much how we look at the album as a whole as well, because it's half an hour, it's compact, and like you said, it's a lot better than having 15 songs in there where half the songs are just filler. They're just there to fill up time. It's much better to have an album that's quality from the top to bottom, even if it's a short album, so you can play it all over again and play it multiple times. In fact, the best albums in history are pretty short. You take albums like Rain and Blood or something, it's like not even half an hour long. So it's to the point, straight out, and that's kind of exactly the mindset we had when we wrote this album. We're like, we don't really need anything else apart from this. We had some other riffs lying around. We could have written a song or two more for the album, but they just didn't seem to fit what we had already written, and there was no point, just putting a couple of songs in there just for the heck of it. Because nowadays I see a lot of albums, they seem to cross like 70 minutes, 75 minutes, but at least 20-25 minutes of those it's just filler. So it's kind of pointless.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that there's some work to do, with the classic bands that are like get too self-indulgent in, like making every song 8 minutes long.
Yeah,
when you play them live, people, a new song that is 8 minutes long. I just went to see Metallica last weekend. I was super excited about the old 80s, old cool stuff. And then they start playing a 8-minute song, and then an 8-minute song. And you're like, okay, I'm getting bored here. And you see that people disappear and go for a beer.
Yeah.
And, and I don't think that's good for anyone with a good catalog. And I think you guys do it a lot more, to the point. I saw you guys in Helsinki a couple of years ago, and that's the thing, that when I go to a gig and I get to the point where I would rather go for a beer or to the toilet, because there's a 10-minute song that's starting, but with you it was like, okay, all the songs are like exciting and to the point.
Yeah, that's another thing. We wanted to write an album where even if we play the songs live, it's short and sweet. People can go crazy. There's, like you said, there's no tedium, there's no boredom. It gets straight to the point. Everyone can have a good time. You don't need to go and get a beer. You already have a beer and you're drinking along with the band. So that's exactly how we write our music.
Yeah. So how did the new the audience reacted to the new songs? You play, well, some of of course, the singles have been out on streaming services, but without the full album. How was the reaction to the new songs?
Yeah, it was mostly positive. I think we tried to play as many of them as we could on this tour. Of course, because nobody knew the songs, it was kind of like a trial by fire in that sense. We debuted some of the songs, and in some places, like in Germany and Poland, people were still going crazy regardless. In some other places, it took a little bit of time to get warmed up to the new stuff, but we noticed that songs like Electrify, for example, really got the crowd going. That seemed to be a very popular one, no matter where we played it. So. And even songs like Turn Up the Heat, that because it's got that whole anthemic thing going, that got a lot of crowd interaction, and it was really cool to see people really enjoying the new stuff. And I think once the album comes out, we'll be playing, if not if not the entire thing live, probably at least a good chunk of it live. So I think it should grab a lot of people's attention.
Yeah. So let's go back to the new album. Also, I noticed, in the credit that there's a new producer, at least that I don't recognize you working with this Jamie Elton before, like co-producing. And I check his catalog. I always like pay attention to the producer credit because I think it might affect a lot the sound. Of course, not so much the songwriting necessarily, but I really like the production, and I noticed that he worked with his work with Century and Flight and Tribulation. And how did you come across this producer, and how did it work with him?
It was actually really cool. We played in Sweden. So he lives in Sweden, in Gothenburg. And we met him at Muskelrock in Sweden, where we performed. He really liked what he heard. And, he spoke to us after the show, and, we got along really well. And he wanted to work with us. And we were like, yeah, cool. If something comes up, we'll definitely let you know. And one thing led to another. We were writing the album, and we were like, what? Let's go with Jamie. Let's see what he thinks about working with us. And it was awesome. It's because he's such a cool guy to work with. And again, he comes from exactly the same mindset that we come from. He loves the classic stuff. He grew up on that stuff, and he knows exactly what we want. Every time when it came to sending demos back and forth with him, he had some great ideas as well on on which direction the song should go, how the riff should be placed, and things like that. Small changes that made a big difference to the final outcome. And it was fantastic working with him because any ideas that we had, he was already 2 steps ahead because he knew exactly what we were looking for, which is why the album sounds the way it sounds. We wanted it to have that very classic sounding, the classic metal sound, which nowadays is actually not that easy to get, and you don't find many bands trying, getting that classic sound. It always sounds a bit too digital or a bit too modern nowadays.
Yeah.
So we wanted to try and sound as organic as possible, and Jamie was a perfect guy to capture that.
Yeah. Well, in addition to the singles, one of the songs that I most like from the album is "Fall to the Spectre's Gaze," and I was trying to pick up from the guitar harmonies whether they are only guitars with a lot of effects or a lot of layers, or whether there's keyboards. Because to me it sounded so epic, but like I don't know, did you incorporate any keyboard or synth?
No. There's only a little bit of synth in Solaris, in the instrumental track.
Yeah.
But apart from that, it's all guitars. It's like dual guitars.
Yeah.
That have been layered a bit.
Yeah.
So it sounds more grand. Sounds more epic.
Yeah. Now that sounds super cool. I was just curious, like, what is my ear? Fooling me that what is this? Yeah, it sounds very cool. And you mentioned Solaris, and I think it's a very beautiful interlude. It kind of reminded me what the Black Sabbath was doing in the 70s, putting a short thing to divide before an epic song, before between side A and B of the vinyl. But the title, of course, it's an instrumental track, doesn't have lyrics, but like I was wondering whether it has the connection with the Tarkovsky film, or where did you get the kind of, how did you decide to give it a name, because it's an instrumental? So
it's but like you said, the inspiration for that was, especially the way it was placed, was actually based on how Sabbath used to do it in the 70s, especially on Bloody Sabbath. They had fluff, which was right in the middle. So we place it right there so that it divides side A and side B, and it's a good interlude between. It comes just before Decimator, which is like the heaviest track on the album. So it was kind of like the calm before the storm, you could say. Mm-hmm. And most of the music was written by Rohit, our lead guitarist, and he wrote this acoustic piece, and we were trying to come up with a name for it. And the more he played it, the more he came up with melodies and things like that. It reminded me of there was this movie called Solaris, actually. So it kind of reminded me of some of the most somber and melancholic parts of that movie, and which is why I thought it would be a great name for a piece like this.
Yeah, exactly. I thought of the movie like initially.
Yeah,
Of course, there's the original version, and then there's some remake. But anyways, it's
right.
like
Yeah,
actually I watched the original one only. I'm a bit scared of watching
yeah,
remakes,
same
but
here.
so yeah, well, you were mentioning also this, this difference, the formats also think that, I collect vinyl also, and it's really cool to have something to separate the two sides. But I was wondering if you collect any,
Yeah.
merch albums, physical format, or what are you into when you like about your favorite bands you collect something.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm only into physical. I don't listen to digital. I don't have a Spotify account. I don't have any of that stuff. So it's vinyl, tapes, CDs, you name it. In fact, I got into vinyl collecting much later. I initially started only with tapes in the 90s, and then moved on to CDs, and then got into vinyls later. But even Rohit, the lead guitarist, he's totally into vinyl and a lot of old tapes, even 8-track cassettes. He collects some of those as well. So it's pretty cool
Yeah.
because I mean, physical is the best. Physical, uh, you can't beat holding a vinyl with the artwork in front of you.
Yeah, definitely. I was wondering, you guys live in India, and like how available these things are, because I've heard of some people from like maybe certain. I don't know about everything every area in the world, but some people like really say that like there's no local industry, like a local distributor, and it's really expensive to import and stuff. Like how is the scene there, like when it comes to be able to access this official merch and like physical music.
Well, actually, 25 years ago, it was very difficult because you had only a few stores in India, in our city at least.
Yeah,
And you could only get like Metallica and Iron Maiden, the popular stuff. So the some of the unknown stuff, the underground stuff, it had to be like it was all bootlegged from abroad. There was a lot of tape trading going on and stuff. So a lot of tapes used to come down from Russia and from the UK and all these places. That's how a lot of us got into music, into a lot of thrash, a lot of death metal, a lot of bands that back then nobody had even heard of. But now, fast forward 20 years later, we have a lot of local distros in the country that get down a lot of vinyls, CDs, tapes, you name it. So nowadays, it's actually quite easy to get, the latest stuff or pretty much anything you need. Of course, it's if you want to order stuff from abroad, it's pretty expensive, and
yeah,
the Indian
yeah,
customs they're dickheads.
yeah.
They
No,
catch
same
everything.
here.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
really hard to import from outside the EU. Like they charge you everything again, like
yeah,
taxes
exactly.
based on posting and stuff. Yeah,
Yeah,
I was
yes,
just curious because there's some people in South America who also have the same problem, that the local distributors only have like mostly mainstream stuff, and you have to import the more underground things. But I was also, checking a bit the history of the band, and I came across, the first couple of albums are a bit harder to find, and also like when I heard them, then they sound a bit different, and you didn't sing on the first one, if I understand correctly. So how did this happen? Kind of the evolution of the band, and then Rahid comes and he does a lot of the songwriting, and it becomes maybe more melodic, more like guitar oriented, or more like this 80s influence of like shredding, I guess. But then there's your voice, which is like very different from a shreddy band, I guess. So I think that makes a very cool combination. But how did it, because you're the only founding member who's still in the band, so like how do you see like retrospectively the evolution of the sound, like the different eras of Kryptos?
So when we started out, bass player Ganesh, he sang on the first album, and back then we were a three-piece, and we didn't really know what direction we wanted to go in. We were listening to all kinds of music from classic heavy metal to thrash to death to doom, and back then we were kids, we were teenagers, and we were like, okay, let's throw everything into it. Let's see what happens. We didn't have a specific sound that we wanted to play, and it you could hear it in the first album. It's got a mix of a lot of things. On the second album, that's when I started singing because Ganesh temporarily left the band. And again, we continued with the same issue. We didn't really know exactly what we wanted to sound like. So, there's still a lot of, maybe you could say, extreme influences in the first two albums. Even my voice was pretty low and very gruff and stuff. But it was only after the third album where the sound started actually taking shape. Because at the end of the day, we realized that we actually really just wanted to play classic heavy metal. That's the kind of music we've always wanted to play deep down. And by the time Burn Up the Night was released, that's when we decided, let's strip away all kinds of other influences, just keep it minimalistic, straight 80s heavy metal, just the way our favorite bands played it, the music that we like to play and the music we like to listen to. And the only thing extreme that was left was my voice, because I can't really sing, so I gotta make up for it somehow. But at the same time, as a singer, I'm really influenced by bands like Corona and Creator and stuff. And we thought it would be a great combination to combine 80s heavy metal with these kind of vocals, and we've just been carrying on since then. That's pretty much our sound now. You can put on an album by us and you can tell that it's us because of this combination. I don't think many bands around the world have this pure 80s heavy metal sound with these kind of vocals.
Yeah. Actually, I tend to be more like, also like it, like you said, it really gets your attention when it's like something that it's out of the norm, like, and not the kind of classic singing, high pitch or operatically. I think that's been overdone. There's really good bands, but there's just too many. So like it really makes Kryptos stand out from my perspective, because it gives it like a thrashier, more aggressive kind of edge. But do you have any, now since we're talking about new bands, like bands that you toured with or like play with at festivals, do you have any recommendations, or from the Indian scene that we might not know?
From the Indian scene, there are quite a few bands that I really like. There's Amorphia. They're a thrash band from our city. Actually, they're from down south, but they still live in our city. They're really cool. They sound like very early Sodom, the Persecution Mania era Sodom. It's amazing how close they sound to that. And we have Against Evil, who are from a city that's about 10 hours away from here. They play very classic heavy metal, stuff kind of in the vein of like Manowar and Dio. And
okay, yeah. I would check them out. We don't get a lot of because I don't think that a lot of Indian bands are touring worldwide. Like I think that are the maybe at the front of this kind of your generation at least.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, we were the first to get out of India and start touring Europe. And then after that, a few bands started touring every now and then. Against Evil have actually been touring quite a bit. I think they're getting ready to go on tour soon. So is Amorphia. And a few bands, not too many, but I would say a handful of bands have slowly been, getting out of the country and touring a lot more. So, I mean, that's a great improvement for our country, considering, 15 years ago, it was unheard of to actually get out and tour. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and lately we got the sad news that what happened to your gear in Europe. I think it was in Czech Republic or something like that. And any news on that? Any update? You had to postpone an Australian tour. I'm sure that was like a bummer, because like so cool to go down under. But like any updates on that? How is the future looking? Touring wise.
Yeah, unfortunately, the cops are saying they're looking into it, but they haven't given us any news so far. It doesn't even look like they're taking it very seriously either. The guy who stole everything and sold everything, he's still walking free. The police aren't doing anything about that. We've got a lawyer involved who's in Prague, in the Czech Republic. He's trying to get things moving, but he says, nothing seems to be nothing seems to be happening. So at this point, we're just hoping that something will work out eventually. But yeah, the entire thing really hit us very hard financially because we lost a lot of. I mean, of course, all the equipment costs a lot of money, but we had to borrow equipment and hire new stuff, vans and merchandise and all sorts of stuff. It was super expensive, and yeah, for coming from India, it's doubly expensive for us compared to a lot of other bands. And yeah, unfortunately, because of all that, we had an Australian tour planned in September, and that we were super excited for that one. But now, because of what happened with this, we just can't afford to go anywhere this year. It'll take us at least, maybe another 6 to 8 months to recover everything.
Yeah, no, that sounds super sad. I don't know. Well, in Europe, at least within Europe, the distances are a bit shorter, but I understand, like the logistics are very tough. So, like, are you gonna do some touring in India to support the new album, or are you thinking of, ways to keep playing live, or?
Yeah, I think once the album's out, it might take a bit of time, but yeah, we will probably do something in India at least, to support the album. Probably sometime in August or September, maybe sometime toward the end of the year. But yeah, we just got to keep moving. We can't just sit here and feel sorry for ourselves. And we will actually make the Australia tour happen next year. We are already working on it. We're going to see how well we can do that, and we'll probably go back to Europe also next year.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds cool. So hopefully you make it again to Finland. That show in Helsinki was like awesome, and I guess that the best way that people can support the band is like you going to your Bandcamp and getting a lot of merch. Like there's shirts, patches, vinyl, CD. Do ship worldwide from Europe. I think that I'm waiting for my Decimator copy and a back patch also.
Awesome.
Maybe I will send you a picture when it's attached.
Yeah,
I have to maybe have to get a purple patch jacket because it's the afterburn. Yeah, back patch. So, anyways, Nolan, I want to thank you for the time. Congratulations on the new album. You have the chance now to talk with fans. We are a Chilean podcast, but this is going worldwide. We're doing it in English, so you can pretty much say what you want.
Thank you all so much for the support, and I hope one day we get to South America and we get to Chile. We heard the fans are super crazy over there, and we actually get a lot of people writing in from South America, and people from Chile have written in as well. We are from Santiago and a couple of other places. So yeah, it'll be amazing to actually get there one day. That'll be awesome, and I hope you guys keep writing in, and I hope you enjoy the new album. Cheers.
Yeah, and actually some people are so crazy that because a band like Kryptos probably won't come to South America so soon, so they come to Europe, so they've seen you in Wacken probably.
Right, yeah, we get that a lot, a lot of people have seen us in Wacken who come from other countries.
Yeah, okay, so thank you very much. Have a good day.
So
bye.
You too, thanks a lot for the interview. Bye-bye.